The following training video will give you an overview of the operation of the Unyvero system and its ease of use. First, you will need to switch on the system. Power up the analyzer using the switch at the bottom right-hand corner on the front of the instrument. Turn on the cockpit using the switch at the bottom right-hand corner on the back of the instrument. And finally, flip the power switch of the lysator at the bottom left-hand corner on the back of the instrument. Once the cockpit is fully booted, please tap on Login. Type in your username and password using the on-screen keyboard and tap on OK. The system is now ready for use. To transfer a viscous patient sample, you will need the Unyvero sample transfer tool, which you should screw tightly onto a Luer-Lock syringe. Otherwise, you can use any calibrated pipette you are comfortable with. Take about 180 microliters from the patient sample and transfer it into the Unyvero sample tube. To do this, first remove the transport cap of the sample tube and slowly inject the sample into it. Then, close the Unyvero sample tube with the new Unyvero sample tube cap. If you see any air bubbles when opening the sample tube after removing the cap, eliminate them by piercing the bubbles or by gently tapping on the sample tube. To start a new test, you simply need to tap on New Test. Then you can scan the ID of the patient sample. If there is no barcode on the original hospital sample tube, just use the on-screen keyboard. Choose the application, pneumonia or implant and tissue infection, select a sample type, and type in a comment if you need to. After you have entered all the information, tap on Start. Now you will need to scan in the Unyvero sample tube. With the now following scanning of the sample tube, the lysator will open automatically. Insert the sample tube into the lysator by pushing the protective lid to the side. Make sure the protective lid is completely covering the sample tube. The lysis process will start automatically upon manually closing the lid of the lysator. If you haven't done so already, now is a good time to take the Unyvero master mix out of the freezer in order to thaw it. The master mix can only be used at room temperature. 30 minutes later, the lysis will be finished. Open the lysator by tapping the corresponding grey bar for your patient sample run on the cockpit and remove the sample tube from the lysator. Close the lid of the lysator and place the sample tube in the sample tube holder where the master mix is already waiting fully thawed. Get a cartridge and plug in the sample tube and master mix tube into the openings. For this purpose, the paper cover must be fully pierced and must not cover the barcode. After fully assembling the cartridge, hold the barcodes on the top side of the cartridge in front of the barcode reader of the cockpit and press Scan Cartridge. The easiest way is to place the cartridge on the little metal ledge at the lower end of the cockpit. It is very important that both the master mix and the sample tube are pushed deeply enough into the cartridge so that the inner parts of the cartridge can be processed inside the analyzer. Insert the cartridge into the slot which is indicated with an arrow on the display of the analyzer until the mechanicals stop. The full cartridge processing will take about 4 hours. When the analysis is completed, the cockpit, as well as the analyzer displays, will prompt you to remove the cartridge. The corresponding purple bar on the cockpit screen, which indicates a running analysis, will turn blue when pulling out the cartridge, indicating a completed run. To view the test results, simply tap on the corresponding blue test bar. The bar will open and will show a summary of the test results. After re-clicking, it will close and automatically be moved to the folder Saved Tests. Under the Saved Tests button, you can find all the results of previous runs. Certain tests can be searched specifically through a filter function. The test results are shown in 4 windows. The overview screen gives you a summary of all detected microorganisms and antibiotic resistance markers. With a click on the button Microorganisms, you get a list of all pathogens tested for, whether positive or not. The resistance markers tested for in detail can be found when tapping the 3rd button. And finally, the 4th button gives you the general test information for a full audit trail. More information and settings can be found under the Advanced Functions button. Under Devices, you can find information such as the serial number and software version of the 3 components of your Unyvero system. You can also turn on and off a single slot of the analyzer by assigning it to a number. A further possibility is to register and deregister the lysator. There's also an option to unload a sample out of the lysator in the case of a power failure. By tapping the button called Configuration, you have the option to choose the plugins, to give the system a name, or to choose your language. Under the Execute button, you can print or export the results, and you will find the system administration and the copyright information here. To shut down the system, please choose the Shut Down button on the cockpit, which you can also find under Advanced Functions. Confirm your selection and turn off all of the power switches of the Unyvero instruments, just as you turned them on at the beginning. Finally, and to complete the workflow, dispose of the used Unyvero cartridges, like all other used consumables, according to the safety guidelines of your institution or your local authority.